Hello, everybody. This is Arungala. Welcome back to my podcast. It's called Grabbing Coffee with Arun, where I talk to everyday people that are doing interesting things. And today, my guest is Jose Marquez. Jose is an interpreter. He does interpreting for mainly for Spanish speaking people. Just to kind of start off with Jose, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, to kind of start off with Jose, tell me what you do.
I'm specifically a medical interpreter. So, what that means is that I interpret conversations between patients and their medical providers. So, you will have a Spanish speaking person who will go to the doctor, or maybe they're getting ready for a medical procedure, or they're calling the pharmacy or their health insurance. They don't speak any English. They will call me on three-way and I will help interpret the conversation from Spanish to English and back from English into Spanish.
So, what about if there's some difficult words or whatever? How do you handle that?
Thankfully over the years, that's happening to me less and less. When I first started this, there were a lot of words I didn't know, and
Right.
you learn them over the years. So when you don't know a word, you write it down and you look it up afterwards. For the meantime, you kind of work your way around it by, if you just don't know what the word is, you can ask for the person to explain what it is,
Hmm.
and therefore you can go and interpret that into the other language. Or let's say you do know the meaning, you just don't know how to say the word, and you can just interpret the meaning because we're not interpreting word for word exactly. We're interpreting the meaning of the conversation of the sentence.
So, is it mainly between the doctors and the patients, or is it like,
Oh no, I deal with nurses and patients, health insurance representatives and patients.
hmm
It could be a government representative. So I'm interpreting for all types of people in different fields.
yeah, it's interesting. So, how did you get into that? Or,
I actually fell into this field just by accident or by coincidence
hmm
because I have a BA in international studies.
hmm
And so I started when I graduated from college back in 2006. I started working for a small company. And when the economy went down in 2008,
hmm
they laid me off. And I was just telling all my friends and family, hey, I just got laid off from my job. I was doing like marketing in a small company. Um, and I got laid off, and I told my friends, "Hey, I'm looking for a job. Keep me posted if you see or hear anything." So one of my friends, who was already an interpreter, approached me and told me, "How do you feel about being an interpreter?" And at
hmm
first, I was like, "No way! I don't know anything about interpreting."
Right.
And she told me, "But you dominate both languages very well, especially Spanish. You went to Costa Rica and did an internship there. Um, you took Spanish in college, so you have a good grasp of it." And she told me, apply for the position. You never know. And I did it thinking it was going to be something
De-
short term, but I've
hmm
been staying with it.
Oh, that's interesting. So, what's challenging about your job?
The challenging thing is a lot of interpreting companies are only making their platform accessible online.
Hmm
Back in the day, they would call you on your home phone to your landline. But now everything is moving to an online platform. And some of these platforms are not accessible for a blind person. So I'm having to educate these companies and tell them how
hmm
they need to make these platforms more accessible.
Wow, that's interesting. So, what about these? Because Spanish is different from like Mexico to like say Guatemala or Honduras. It's
Mhm.
slightly different, right? Or is it?
Yes. Yes, there are differences. Spanish is spoken in what, maybe over 15 countries, I think. I could be off by a few. but it definitely varies. In the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, it was very hard for me to understand the Spanish accents of other countries,
Mm-hmm.
especially those from like the Caribbean, like Puerto Rico. Well, it's a U.S. territory, but they still speak a different type of Spanish than they do in Mexico, the Dominican Republic, Cuba. They speak a lot faster than Mexicans. That's the type of Spanish I'm used to. That's where my family's from. So it really took me a while to get my ear used to hearing, those dialects. They use different words for different things.
That's kind of interesting, right?
Yes, yes.
So, let's just say, for example, that you have some important things, message that you want to tell the person that's being translated to. How do you handle that? Or
In the medical field, when you have to give someone a
mm,
diagnosis
mm-hmm,
of cancer, for example,
mm-hmm,
it's never easy. Or somebody that's terminally ill, you have to tell them there's nothing else that we can do.
mm-hmm,
I have to take a deep breath in and just hold myself mentally
mm-hmm,
because I have to be professional. I cannot let myself break down mentally
mm-hmm,
because if I break down, then that's just going to break down the communication. So there have been instances where the patients will start crying in front of me, or better said, over the phone.
mm-hmm.
And I just have to, stay quiet for a moment, let them do what they have to do, express their feelings, and I come back into the conversation when I feel it's appropriate. So I just got to maintain my composure, uh, be professional and respectful.
And I bet it's hard to do that, right?
It is. The first time I had to do that, I had to, after I ended that call, I had to get up and go outside and take a few deep breaths and just meditate because it wasn't easy. It was a case where the daughters were trying to convince the doctors to save their dad, but he had a terminal illness and he just had days to live. And they wanted the doctor to just try everything possible, and the doctor was just trying to make them understand I've done everything I can. There's nothing else I can do. So it was hard for me. That was the first time ever had to do something like that, and I just went outside and put myself back together again.
I can't imagine, Jose. It must be very difficult. Um, Let me ask you this. With artificial intelligence, do you see that that could help somebody like you or what?
It can be a useful tool. I know that some interpreters and translators, because there is a difference between the two, are afraid of AI, but there are some in our field who are saying we can use AI as a tool. More in the translation field, I
Hmm.
do the interpretation side of things, but AI can be very useful to help you phrase words and sentences quickly, automatically. You can have it there just as an additional tool to help you become more efficient. Um, for example, there's technology out there that already interprets conversations on the spot, like the smart glasses.
Right.
Uh, yes, and over the weekend, my wife, I let her borrow my glasses. We went to a meeting, and we interpreted the glasses were interpreting the presentation from English to Spanish because my wife is a Spanish speaker. But the glasses translated everything literally. So
Wow.
if it made no sense, the glasses still did it. So AI still can make a lot of mistakes. And the glasses were like a minute and a half to 2 minutes behind the presentation,
There's a delay, I
where
guess, right?
there's a big delay. Whereas if you're using a human interpreter, the
Mm.
delay is only a few seconds behind because the glasses have to take all the information, they send it somewhere else, and it goes back to the glasses and has to be processed. So AI has its limitations, but it can definitely be a useful tool.
Hmm. So, just for my audience, Jose, what's the difference between? I think I kind of know what's the difference between interpreting is what you're doing, but what is translating? Is that done
Yes,
on paper
that's a
or?
yeah, that's a big misunderstanding on that. A lot of people will call me a translator, and I'm not. I'm an interpreter. Uh, what a translator does is they do document translation.
That's what
So,
I thought.
somebody,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. So somebody will come to you and say, Jose, I have a birth certificate here in English. Can you translate this into Spanish? And that is what a translator does. An interpreter is just going to interpret an oral conversation. A doctor talking to his patient, a police officer talking to a person on the side of the road. It could be the insurance company representative calling their claimant, and they're interpreting the conversation. So there's definitely a difference between an interpreter and a translator.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Hmm.
Let me ask you one last question.
Hmm.
So, is there like a license to do what you're doing?
Yes, there is. It's not a requirement, but it definitely makes you more attractive as an interpreter, as a candidate.
Hmm.
So the oldest type of license or certification that's out there for an interpreter is a legal interpreter. They are the ones who work at the courthouses and they work for attorneys and lawyers. That's the oldest certification out there. The one that I have is a medical interpreting. And those are the two main certifications that you can get right now. Currently, the field of interpreting is working on getting an education certification
Hmm.
so that interpreters that are working in the education field can be certified. And then you just have community interpreters. They don't have to be certified, but they just do a little bit of everything. That's where I got started at, like customer service, public utility, 911, government, that type of stuff.
So, one last question, I guess, second to last question.
Mhm.
Jose, so what about somebody that's a younger person that wants to do what you're doing? What would you advise them? Like,
Yes, well, the person, it's helpful to be bilingual. So whatever two languages, if you speak more, even better. But you have to ask yourself, do I have a good grasp of both languages? I grew
mhm,
up speaking English and I learned Spanish at home. Well, my parents spoke Spanish and I learned English at school. So I grew up speaking both languages basically my entire life. So you have to have a good understanding of both languages. You have to be able to dominate them fairly well. You have to
mhm.
be able to speak them fluently, efficiently, have some basic understanding of different terminology in different fields, banking, insurance. Of course, it's impossible to know every single word and be familiar with every single industry, but if you have a good understanding of two languages, you can use that as a starting point. And you can think about what do I like? Do I like medicine? Do I like legal? Do I like community? I got certified in the medical field. There are courses that you can take as
Mhm.
a medical interpreter or a legal interpreter. And those courses will really open up your eyes to see if that's something you really want to get into. They teach you techniques, they teach you the terminology, they teach you what it takes to be an interpreter. And taking those medical courses or legal interpreting courses will really help you realize, am I made for interpreting?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting, and you really opened my eyes. But is this a good position for somebody that's visually impaired or blind, Jose?
Definitely. 60, 80% of the positions are freelance, remote work. I work from home, and so it's very practical for me. I don't have to worry about taking public transport or rely on anyone else to take me to work. I work from home. I log on to a platform that my company has, and I take the calls at home.
That's kind of
Um,
cool, huh?
yeah, I've worked with like four different companies as an interpreter, and only one of them I've had to actually go and work at an actual office. Most of them I work from home. So there's a lot of remote opportunities as an interpreter and a translator.
So do they have like degrees in colleges for interpreters?
Yes, they're becoming more and more popular. You can actually get a master's degree in interpreting and translation. So yes, it's becoming more and more popular as the demand for interpreters and translators is growing.
Yeah. Okay, Jose, thank you very much. If you guys want to get a hold of me, thank you for listening to this episode of my podcast. If you guys want to get a hold of me, my email is arun, ARUN dot GAALLA at gmail.com. So, Jose, do you want to give out your email or any other information if anybody's interested in contacting you about any kind of interpreter jobs or anything like that?
Yes, I will share my email. It's long, but it's easy to remember. It's going to be my name, Jose, Jose, dot Marquez, that's M as in Mary, ARQUEZ, dot Texas, TEXAS, at gmail.com.
Hey, that's clever. I like that. Dot Texas.
It's
Yeah.
it's long but easy to remember.
Okay. Thank you, Jose, for your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye bye.